We've built the neck now, a 3-piece neck blank with maple stringers, and it is pretty much ready for a truss rod. Routed that last time and routed the truss rod access. The last thing I need to do is drill an access hole there, otherwise it will all have been for naught. And I have done that before. I've glued a truss rod in and forgotten that I needed to get that. Anyhow, we live and learn. Loo theory is all about making mistakes and recovering, at least for the first decade or two. Anyway, I use a lightweight, small profile, dual access truss rod. 9 times out of 10 you don't need this one goes both ways basically. I'm assuming that if you're watching this you know that. 9 times out of 10 you don't need that, but when you do need it you bloody well need it. And the nice thing about these is they are fairly low profile. The U-channel truss rods are alright, but for my money they take up, well, it's a 10mm channel that you have to route, and most of the U-channel is actually air, which might make your neck sound good, because tone chambers in necks do sound good, but it will also take away strength and stability, and that is not nice. Anyway, we're ready to install the truss rod almost, and we will be preparing this, I don't know, 5A grade ebony fretboard. On ebony, I don't like using ebony. I am phasing it out. I'm still dealing with a backlog of a couple of years worth of orders, but new orders, I'm trying to get clients to stop using ebony. It is endangered. There is a lot of poaching going on, and while a small builder like me that only makes a dozen a year or so isn't going to make much of a difference, if I proselytise enough and tell enough people, then we'll find alternatives. I quite like the idea of making carbon fibre necks and fretboards and things. Epoxy resins are much more stable, although probably not as environmentally friendly as wood. Anyway, so if you are going to use ebony, make absolutely certain that you know where it is coming from and that your supplier knows where it's coming from, because it's just not fair to use poached wood. So you start your hole off at an angle. And then flatten it out. The amount of times that you snap that there and have to replace it, this time we're lucky. We're now ready for the truss rod. Almost. This neck has been flat for just over a week, and since it is a new neck, the last thing you do before you put the fretboard on is double check your perfect, or what should have been perfect, joint where the fretboard glues on with a straight edge. And I'm finding that there actually has been some movement. There's a slight hump here and a probably 2/10 of a millimeter gap just there, and using a backlight you can see that. You can even feel it if you hold your straight edge there. I can feel that it's not touching there and that it's touching there. It's very difficult to describe really. However, it's a good thing I checked, and you should always do this, because that would give me, well, I'd have to take that gap out of the fretboard, once the fretboard had been glued on if I hadn't noticed. So, onto the jointing plane. So finally we start installing the truss rod. It just slips on in. Now I was obviously very careful to make sure that I cut the channel exactly the right depth, but in the middle, where you have a little bit of a play, or a little bit of play, sorry, we have a slight issue. Effectively, if the truss rod is in its middle position, i.e. not bending either way, you might end up with that bit rattling a little bit against the top of the fretboard. The top of the fretboard? The bottom of the fretboard. So, I carefully roll up a couple of little bits of masking tape so that the sticky side is outside, and that goes along the edge there, and that will stop any potential rattling. Putting in the last little bit there. Now again, something you don't want is glue in the truss rod channel, and masking tape comes to the rescue again. I'm putting it along the line of the truss rod, just about 1 millimeter over the edge. What I don't want is to cover too much of the wood. And again, you just cut a mil or so on the other side of the truss rod channel. We want to have as much actual wood surface to glue to.